Do you have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once?
Hey, look at that.
Hey, awesome. Nice countdown.
Huh?
Nice countdown.
Thanks. I like the countdown. How are you?
Action. I'm good. You?
I'm good.
All right.
Busy.
Yeah, things are picking up for us as well, so I assume they're picking up for you.
They are.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Ever since we started talking about DTF, I've been hammering away at it.
It's awesome.
So, yeah. Shocking how many people... it's shocking how many people don't have the same mental block that printers do about it.
That is a truth.
Yeah.
That is an absolute truth.
I had a customer walked in. He's like, hey, our organization would like to do a few shirts and just do it as a sample, but I know that it's so expensive to do just a few shirts. What's the lowest you'd be willing to do? I'm like, one. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, in the past we would have to screen print it, but now we do this thing called DTF. And
what do you call it? Do you call it digital screen print, or do you call it transfers? What do you call it?
I call it DTF that way. Basically,
Did anybody look at you sideways?
Yeah, of course you do. And then I'm like, by the way, let's go take a look at the machine. I'll show you how it works. And then they're just amazed by it. And then we print a sample shirt for them. We have some sample art that we have there, and they go home with it, and they're like, this is awesome. And most of the people are just shocked at how much color you can put down, and it's the same price, whether it's one color or 20 colors.
Right.
And they love it. And literally Thursday, late afternoon, this morning I had somebody in. He wants to do 8 or 10 different funny shirts. He wants to sell it on Etsy, that kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, yeah, we'll do one each.
Now, do you do the artwork for that, or do they do the artwork and send it to you?
In this case, I'm doing the artwork, and I hate that because you never make enough on the artwork. Even if you try and bill, by the time you do some research on their funny quote and the movie they're quoting, and you find some art that signifies what they're trying to get across, and then make it DTF, print quality, half tone it out. You can't charge $212 for a T-shirt.
It's true.
So
are you using AI at all to help you do some of your artwork?
No.
Or at least initial...
No, I'm old school. I'm hard-headed. I'm old school. Leave me alone. Quit poking the bear.
I'm just saying, just to give you a jump start, then you can modify it from there. But
no, in all honesty, a lot of the time I spend is in research. So you're trying to get an idea of I don't even know what the quote means. I wish I could tell you some of the quotes. I can't remember them, but they're obscure lines from a movie that I've never seen. So it's like, now I got to go out and try to watch this movie by the clip.
Mm-hmm. What kind of a name is Poon?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, you're trying to get some inspiration on it. And then you're like, okay, well, I got this idea. And I never think about, I could just go to AI and tell them what I want. Mostly because the one time I did try and use AI, I was like, hey, I need a pink elephant and a rubber duck. And it was garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looked like a 6-year-old melted wax on paper. It was terrible. So I realized it's probably improved in the last
Slightly,
year or two.
Yeah.
So that's why I usually just go old school and pull some stuff into Photoshop and cut it up.
Nice.
Merge it. So anyways, but yeah. So like I said, we had a guy, he wanted some obscure stuff. We made some art, and I was like, I can print it one at a time. When you sell them, you need more, let me know. We'll do another one. And he loved the idea. And, I was like, it's not going to be screen printed, He's like, oh, it's not? And I'm like, no, we're going to put it on DTF process, and basically we're going to, print apparel ink onto a film, apply some powder, and adhere that to the shirt. And I was like, come on out, I'll show you the process. And so I didn't even have the machine on, but I just kind of walk them through. It goes through here, we apply some powder, it heats it up, we put it on the press here, and this is what it looks like. We'll make one. And as soon as you make one, and the key is the second press. And
Yeah.
once you do that, he's like, man, this feels awesome. There you go. And then he's like, oh, well, this will probably only last 8 or 10 washes. I'm like, no, that'll last you 75, 80 washes. Which, I mean, I have one that I bought, I don't know, a year and a half ago just to test it out. Like I've told you, I have a friend in Wisconsin who swore that DTF, he's never printing again, you know, and I was like, all right, we'll see. And so I bought one from him, and I put it on a shirt, and, you know, I wear it all the time, once a week at least, you know, and been a year and a half, it looks the same.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know what expectation people have, but if somebody owns a shirt for a year and a half, I don't think they're going to be like, oh, your print sucks. You know, they're going to be like, it wore out. So, anyways, but we originally got on this rabbit hole by like the expectation that we have as printers. We're just like, oh, it doesn't feel the same. It's not as good a quality. It's not going to last as long. It's not going to be as bright. All that is
Garbage.
One, it may not even be true, but two, the person buying it, they're just like, oh, this looks cool. Thank you.
They legitimately don't care.
Right.
Legitimately don't care. The only people I see that care
Or other screen printers.
Yep, and it's the hardcore screen printer. It's the screen printer die guy, right? It's if it ain't screen print, it's not good, right? And
those are the same people that threw dye sublimation out and everything else. So,
and I get it. I wish, from my point of view, I just wish they wouldn't be so defensive in the fact that they're feeling threatened by
that's what it is.
By DTF, and instead of being threatened, you should go, oh, ding ding, additional revenue stream, right? It's
or the technology of the future, right?
Yeah,
like we got indoor plumbing now,
which is, by the way, really cool.
Right,
really cool.
Right.
But
indoor plumbing,
but to be honest,
computers,
I'd rather
cable TV.
I would rather use an outhouse and rabbit ears.
You're a damn liar.
So I don't know. To be honest with you, I think the remotes are. I think like remotes with TVs,
they're way overrated.
They're way overrated.
It's much better to be like, kids,
exactly.
Channel 7.
Channel 7. And to be honest with you, 63 channels is a bit much.
Yeah.
That's too many options for me.
Yeah,
I prefer 4. 4 was good.
4 was good.
And when UHF came out, we had 5, and that was big, right? 5 channels is enough. Do you really need 63?
I don't know. How many times can you watch Lawrence Welk on Sunday now? I mean,
does it get old? Dude, seriously, no one watching this podcast is even going to know who Lawrence Welk is.
Screw all you people. You age shamers. You knew.
Well, that is the truth. That
we need to go back to Sunday night programming.
It's called Sunday Night Football. It's going to be on this Sunday.
Well, that's true. I like Sunday Night Football. That didn't used to exist back in the day. The late game, and then it was over until Monday. So,
thank you, ESPN. I think it's on ESPN, isn't it? Sunday Night Football? No, it's ABC. That was the old Monday Night crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyways.
We digress.
Mutual of Omaha, though?
Wild Kingdom?
Wild Kingdom, that's what I'm saying.
That's some legit stuff right there.
Yeah, hunting some stuff down. We need to go back to those days.
We literally do. It's the only place you can really see a lion eat a
baby hippopotamus.
Or a gazelle or something. Yeah, some kind of toothpick. But yeah.
So.
Good stuff. All right, well, hey, today we have Brandt from Farmhouse Apparel.
I'm curious to see. This is an interesting topic.
Typically, I help the people transition from a manual to an auto, but then I never really have an opportunity to go back and go, hey, Was it exactly what you expected? What was there some expectations that weren't met, or how was that transition? Was it more painful, less painful than you thought it was going to be? So it'd be really interesting to, hey, leaping ahead, years gone by, how's it gone? You know what I mean? It's
and I have a unique perspective because I've never pulled a squeegee. I've always done auto. We went from transfers to full-on auto. And so, I don't have any expectation of manual versus auto, or I don't have any real perspective, not expectation, but
yeah, it should be interesting.
It'll be interesting.
All right, well, let's get to it. All right, hey, we're on with Brandt from Farmhouse Apparel. Hey, Brandt, how are you?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good. So, on this program, we speak the truth. We don't give fluff answers. So, first question is, how's business?
Business is good, man. It's been just steady this year, growing slowly but surely. Early this year we had a spike in business that we hadn't had before, so it's kind of just carried us through this year. Everything, obviously it's going to dip, at the beginning of the summer and stuff, but overall we're outpacing last year by a fair margin. So can't
that's
complain.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to? Anything in particular, or?
There's a few factors. I don't think it's just one specific thing, but one is I had a few clients that I had been nurturing kind of all land in the beginning of the year at the same time, or at least they were giving me an opportunity to earn their business at the same time. And then last November, we jumped into the auto world, so getting that up and running has given us more bandwidth to print more, print at a higher quality. And so I think some people see that equipment and then they're impressed by it. They're like, oh, he's not just in his garage, messing around. He's serious with it. So I think that's kind of opened some people's eyes as well.
So is that actually a market thing? Like, okay, you're a serious screen printer versus, okay, he's just a hobbyist?
I think so. The amount of just on Instagram marketing, that's really all I've done recently is just post videos of the machine working. And I get a lot of people just comment on how cool that is to see the machine working. Because it's impressive to look at, even if you don't know what you're looking at. They're like, oh, wow, that's huge or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you haven't seen the large ones yet. But people who don't know anything about screen printing, like I'm involved in a BNI networking group. People who don't know how to screen print, or they'll sit there and watch the videos. It's almost like a calming thing just to see how things work, how things are made. So I do think it helps, for sure.
Yeah, I would say that's like I think my kids talk about like TikTok videos, and they will literally watch those all day long on just stuff moving and how it works. And
oh yeah,
I would agree with that.
I've watched videos of people cutting grass before, just a dude cleaning up this crazy yard.
Just soothing.
So, right.
Yeah. So give us a little background about Farmhouse and where you came from, what you do, what markets you serve, how you've been growing, and then I would say give us a little background on something we don't know about, Farmhouse outside of screen printing.
Sure. So my background is in graphic design. I went to the University of South Carolina. I have a degree in media art, and then a minor in art studio. So I have a very broad perspective of a lot of different types of medium. Funny story is the one class that I dropped was printmaking. I went into the painting side of it because I didn't want to buy all the supplies I needed it was more like paper printing and stuff, but still it would have made a lot of sense for me to do that had I known where I was going to end up. But I went from South Carolina to Georgia to help plant a church. and I did music and a lot of the media graphics for that early on. And then I jumped into just full-time graphic design. I landed a job in automotive marketing, two different companies in Atlanta, and I did that for over 10 years. Kind of simultaneously as I started to screen print, I was in the middle of those jobs. So in 2014, I started screen printing just in my garage. I went and bought a silver press, tabletop press, and I think an Epson 1430 printer to print my films with, and I just hand built my washout booth and just very DIY, started doing it in the garage, more just because I wanted to do it. And in 2014, I did try to make Farmhouse happen full time, but I underestimated, one, what it was going to take to learn how to screen print, and two, how to start a business. And simultaneously, I got an offer for a job that I couldn't really pass up the money. So it allowed me to still work nights and weekends on Farmhouse, and then have, financial support, through that time. And then just kind of grew that. I went from a silver press. I ended up buying a used Riley Hopkins 4x4, which is behind me. And then I got my first conveyor dryer around 2017 or 2018. So I was steadily growing the business, just wasn't in a hurry. So I just slow, steady growth has been my kind of motto. And then in 2020, when COVID happened, I decided to go full-time into screen printing based on what my salary was at the other company and how I'd grown the business up. And about 2 years after that, maybe a year and a half after that, I noticed I was growing very quickly because I was putting all of my time and energy into it. So in 2023, early 23, I started looking at autos and thinking about that. 2022 is when I hired my first employee part-time. And then 2023 started looking at autos just because of, one, the quantities of jobs that we were starting to get, both the t-shirt quantities and the amount of jobs we were starting to get. And then the equipment that I was using manually, just wasn't cutting it. I think it was great for beginners and intermediate printers, but I was chasing a quality that I wasn't achieving on the equipment. So kind of one of those things where you realize what you have isn't good enough. So the equipment was holding me back at that point. So yeah.
So give us something you do that outside of screen printing.
Inside of Farmhouse or just personally?
No, just personally.
Okay. Well, so I have a 90s cover band. I play bass in it's called Monkey Wrench ATL. So you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Monkey Wrench ATL. We actually got a gig in a few hours, so that's why we're doing this.
Nice.
This pretty
Where's
quick.
Your gig
but
at? Where's your gig at tonight?
It's at a place in Atlanta called the Painted Pickle. Sounds funny, but yeah, these pickleball courts are popping up, where they just have a bunch of pickleball courts, and it's like a restaurant, bar, everything. So that's where we'll be at. Yeah, that's where we'll be at tonight.
So do you play while people are playing pickleball, or do you play like afterwards, like once the pickleball is done, and then people want to have a beer afterwards?
Yeah, this is the first time we've been there, so I'll have to let you know. But from what I gather, there's another place similar we play at that's called the Painted Duck, and it's duck pin bowling. So I imagine people are going to be able to, they'll be playing pickleball, eating, drinking, whatever, while we're playing. Yeah, right. So yeah, we're not the main event or anything. We're there for entertainment.
You're the warm-up band? Are you the warm-up band, or are you the main event?
I think we're the only band that'll play. So we'll play for like 3 hours. Yeah.
Do you ever run out of songs?
We've come up tight a few times, but no, we've got probably 90 or 100 songs in our catalog. So.
Oh wow.
We can do it 3 hours, a couple of breaks in there, pretty easy.
No, nice. So one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on the podcast is, and by we, hopefully Chad will bless us with his presence shortly. Is you just have a really fascinating story, and I think it's one that I get a lot, which is, not only because no one seems to understand when I say going to an auto is completely different than doing it manually. Like, you can't even use the same stuff. Like, an auto requires typically requires different inks, may even require different emulsions. It's just a different cat altogether. And in fact, I've done 2 consulting projects this week, which is similar, where they're going from a manual to an auto. What would you say? So first off, I would say, when did you finally get to the point where you've had it? Okay, I got to go to an auto. And then I guess my second follow-up question to that would be is, when you got there, did you think you got there too late, right on time? What would your impression be on that one?
Yeah, so February of 2023, I got an email from Anatol, or I saw it online or something, for an open house at Rock Hill Screen Printing. That's where I met you for the first time. And I had no expectation. I just was like, I'm doing pretty well. It's a slow month. Let me just go see some stuff. I had an inkling that maybe I wanted to go that direction, but I had no idea like what it costs or what it would take. I was actually even thinking about upgrading my manual press just to get a nicer manual press at the time. So I was just weighing out some options, looking at some new equipment, seeing how I could be more efficient. And then I was kind of blown away by what I saw. And then that was my first real experience of just meeting other screen printers and like talking to them. Like, I got a few friends in the area, but like the amount of knowledge that I gained in that weekend was pretty incredible. Not just about autos, but just in general, screens, emulsion, all kind of stuff, dryers even. And so that weekend had started me churning like, all right, do I need an auto? Can I afford it? Like, what does that look like for me? Interesting enough, like the next week we had an inquiry for a local-ish online t-shirt retailer who was looking for a new printer, and they were like, hey, can you handle 20,000 pieces a month? And I was like, no, I can't, but I'm willing to grow with you. If we ended up doing like 4,000 or 5,000 pieces that month for them, just to help them get to a deadline. But so that's when I started. I was like, hey, I might need an auto sooner than I thought, because apparently opportunities for larger volumes are out there, and I wouldn't have pursued that without an auto, if that makes sense. We would have been printing nonstop on the manual all month long to even come close to the deadline. So that was in February, March of 2023. In July, end of July, my part-time employee left for a better opportunity money-wise, which was totally cool, but I kind of got left in a rut. So I didn't really get a 2-week notice. However, he did close like $9,000 worth of business. So I had some pretty large jobs that I was doing myself, just nonstop printing, print all day, sleep for a couple hours, print for another few hours, just grinding it out for days on end. And so when I actually weighed out what I was paying him, what a press would cost me, I was like, all right, I think this was probably in October of 2023. So a couple of months of me grinding it out, I was like, all right, I'm either going to quit screen printing. I'm going to go back to an office job, designing whatever, just graphic design, or I'm going to go all in. I'm going to spend the money and buy the nice equipment. Because up until then, I hadn't bought anything brand new screen printing wise. Everything was kind of secondhand, just what I could find a good deal on. And so I decided to go all in. Just happened to be a conference. I can't remember which one it was, but there was a conference in Atlanta. So I drove.
Oh, that was Printing United.
Printing United. All right. So I drove there to you. I was like, hey, I just want to see what I'm going to get in person. You walked me around the floor. I already knew the Volt was what I wanted, just because of working in my basement. You showed me the dryer, and the exposure unit that I got, and then that was how I came to that conclusion. I was like, I'm either gonna quit or I'm gonna make this a lot easier on myself.
So, do you feel like you came to that decision right on time, slightly late, early? Where do you think your timing was on that?
I think I would have been on time had my employee not kind of left kind of suddenly, because we would have been okay, and I think I would have gradually gotten there in the next few months anyway. But when it went back to just me, and I realized how much work I wasn't able to do, um, that kind of pushed me over the edge. So it's kind of like right on time, just a little too late. So
Yeah. So
I
do you
think
think
I would
that?
have
Do you
made the
think?
decision.
No, go ahead.
I think I would have made the decision sooner had I not been so slammed. You know what I mean? I almost had to get to a point where I had jobs finished, or I could like say, "Hey, I'm gonna pull the trigger now." It's hard to make that decision when you're in the midst of just grinding it out.
Yeah. So do you think your employee quitting was a blessing in disguise?
I think so. Yeah, I can see that. Because the funny thing is, so um, we installed the auto the week after Thanksgiving. It took me the middle of February, the following year. So this year, 2024, February, the middle of that year, I hired somebody else. Like, I thought I was going to maybe make it to the summer, but because of those clients that I had that all landed this year at the same time, I went ahead and found and hired somebody else too. So I wasn't really expecting to do that, but I was because of the last of fall of 2023, I am looking ahead a little bit more, and I knew I hit a point where I was like, I have to do something now. I can't wait, until I'm really struggling to make a better decision or make things more efficient. So it all was a blessing in disguise, I guess. Learned a lot from it for sure.
Well, we'll certainly dive deeper into that one. But so I guess my first question would be, how was the transition for you? Was it like learning how to do it all over again? Was it a little less daunting? How did did it meet your expectations, or were there challenges that developed that you didn't foresee that was going to be a challenge that you may or may not have been a challenge when you were on your manual?
A little bit of all of that. So I remember after everything was installed. So we're going into December, and like I wasn't super busy December, and I would just kind of walk down here and look at it, like, what am I supposed to do with this thing? Like it's a little intimidating at first, and there were some doubts that I had as far as like, do I know what I'm doing? Am I a good screen printer? All that kind of stuff. And then as you just have to start using it, right? You have to dive in and just start messing around with it and start printing on it and then figuring it out. But I did begin to trust myself because I'm like, no, I know what a shirt looks like when it's not flashed enough. Like I know what that top coat looks like when something's not flashed or there's not enough pressure, enough angle. And some of that stuff is a learning curve because manually you can feel everything. Like you get instant feedback when you're manually printing, whether or not like your angle's right or your pressure's right. But on the auto,
Mm-hmm.
you might print several shirts before you find the right thing, or at least when you're starting out. So some of that is true. Like it was a learning curve. It was intimidating, but once I dove in and started trusting myself, I think I'm a better screen printer now because I actually understand why the angle needs to be a certain way or the pressure needs to be a certain way than I did even when I was manually printing, because I was almost kind of getting away without knowing specific things. So I'm not sure if that exactly answered your question, but
I'm
it would have.
just trying to think of, our listeners are going to be curious on going, okay, maybe they are thinking about, jumping to an auto, and how daunting is it, and how radically different is it really versus having a manual? I mean, so
Sure.
is it really as?
I will say
Go ahead.
this. When you're tweaking things out and working things, getting it all set up and dialed in, like that can be a little frustrating because you're not really sure what you're doing. But when I first saw and I got it right the first time, and I saw I remember when the first white ink that I printed on there, and I saw it for the first time, and I'm like, that's the opacity, that's the crispness that I've been chasing for, the smoothness, all that. Like that's the quality I've been chasing. So once I saw that, then a lot of the other stuff goes out the window, and then you kind of relax and just start printing shirts. So when I saw the
You're like,
quality
oh,
and what it
that's
was
cool.
capable of, yeah, when I did it for the first time, not just seeing it at an open house, but when I set it all up, got the screen made, got it registered, printed it, and then saw it, the final product, and I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. Or I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I'm like, this is 95% where I want it to be. It's going to be amazing to most people.
Right. So do you think when you went to an audio, do you think your print quality got dramatically better?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of my issues I was having were from um, just anything that I had related to a heating element. It was either going bad or I was limited because of how fast I could print manually. So I was having curing issues and starting to have that. And so um, buying the new conveyor dryer, having the Stampinator or the Flash with the auto temp sensor, um, that took a lot of things out and made it a lot better for me.
Hey, there he is.
What's
Hey,
up?
Look at that guy.
better late than never, huh?
Better late than never.
That's right.
It's hot.
It is hot.
It's hot today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Traffic is a treat.
I bet.
Yeah, you got those presidential candidates in town. That sucks.
Now I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, all the interstates are shut down or down to one lane so they can check.
Where is he at today?
Who cares? Who cares?
Who cares? Continuing down that road. So, what? I guess what surprised you in a good way when you moved, other than just print quality? What really surprised you when you went to your auto? And then I guess, what was that hidden challenge that you didn't expect that popped up, and you're like, I didn't see that one coming?
Outside of print quality, just the speed, I guess, at which you can print. Being able to, so when you're on a manual printing multiple colors, you're spinning the press 3 or 4 times to get the job done, and to be able to set up a job, and whether you're printing highlight white or not, being able to spin it once and the job be done, or the shirt be done, that's pretty impressive. I think. So being able to print 60 shirts an hour to 250 pretty easy. That's quite impressive, I think. And you can go faster than that. That's just kind of what we naturally have been doing, somewhere around 2 or 250 an hour.
When you're printing like that, do you get like a blessings from your forearms going, thank God I'm not doing that?
Yeah, my back chirps at me a little bit on the auto, but it's not bad. So
And that's
everything
is that just from loading the shirts?
Yeah.
yeah, because the safety bar kind of sticks out a little further than I'd want it to, but yeah, you're just leaning over a little bit more than you would on a manual, because you're not right up against the pallet.
Right. I can see that. One I wouldn't even know I thought of.
Right.
So what was a challenge that you think popped up that you did not expect?
As far as just printing in general, or from the whole
Just
process?
in general, when you envisioned yourself going from a manual to an auto, like what was the
Right.
thing that you didn't even think about that ultimately ended up being a challenge that you ultimately probably ended up fixing, but you're like, I didn't even think about that. Like I didn't even think that was gonna be a challenge. Or is there anything?
Not not like a crazy challenge that I would be like, oh, this is making me question my purchase or anything. Like some of it is just little things that where you're learning the press. Like the first time I printed fleece on there, it was like, all right, trying to figure out exactly what the off contact needed to be or the squeegee angle for that kind of thing. Um, that was mainly it. I mean, there's probably some little quirks with the just learning how to operate the press. Like safety bars are
Right.
open. That you get back to the main
How many
station and you're
pallets
like,
have you
oh crap.
printed?
Oh, several. Yeah, we don't talk about that. But
There's no money in those.
right. Well, what sucks is when you print a pallet with grip tape on it or print grip
Nice.
on it.
Yeah,
Those
That's a
ones
treat.
make you cringe a little bit.
yeah. Have you lost a screen doing that?
I've lost, not to that, but I've lost one screen so I got in this bad habit of setting my squeegees on top of the arm. And then I'll take the flood bar, and when it's got ink on it still, you can kind of like lean it on there and it'll kind of just stay while you do something. And that flood bar slipped off and fell through a screen one time. Luckily I was done with it, but that's the only mishap I've had. That's the only screen casualty I've had on the press.
That's actually not that bad.
We had that happen last week. So
Did
welcome
you?
to the club. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your setup there? I mean, so in your shop setup, so you were saying you have a volt. So what station volt do you have?
So I have an 8.7, and most of that was, I think I was looking at the one larger, but budget-wise, space-wise, the 8.7 just made the most sense. So it's 8.7. We're running a Stampinator and a flash, and then we have a BBC dryer. I think it's a 10-foot dryer, and then the Quick Light Anatol exposure unit. Those were the three big pieces of equipment that we bought. So the exposure unit I was using was pretty small, and I think I was exposing it. At first I was exposing it 4 minutes. We switched emulsion with what Blue Ridge carries, and that went from 4 minutes to a minute and a half. And then on the Anatol Quick Light with the same emulsion.
Are you saying just switching emulsions made your exposure time quicker?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, it blew my mind. And then on the Quick Light, I think it's 17 total seconds. 7 of that's exposure time. The rest is the vacuum time. So, all of that.
Snap, that's fast.
Yeah, all of that makes a huge difference.
So, I guess the question is, what do you think about the Stampinator? Did it take some getting used to? Do you like it? Does it basically perform as advertised? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, all right. So I love the Stampinator. However, the first couple of weeks I was using it, it was a love-hate relationship where I would get so frustrated with it that I took it off. And then I realized how hard it was for one person to put it on and off the press. And when I got it back on there, I haven't taken it off. So I committed to just getting it dialed in. I think on the Anatol, it's a little bit more of a challenge because every pallet is going to hit that Stampinator because of how it indexes. But if anything, I stamp every shirt before it gets printed. So it's either getting underbase stamped or it's just getting stamped and then the color on there. I think it makes too much of a difference in the quality of the print as far as opacity and fibrillation and everything. Like I've thought before, like I was like, I might just put 2 Stampinators on here instead of a second flash, or instead of a flash, just run 2 Stampinators.
Really?
I have had that.
What do you think the
thought.
second Stampinator would do?
Just keep it. I don't know. I was just like, I use it more than I use the flash. So I was like, I know it's not going to get smoothed out any more or less, but I've had better success using the Stampinator than the flash sometimes. But I don't know.
I agree. I've had better success with the Stampinator than the flash.
Really?
Yeah, it's more consistent. Once you get the time dialed in and the heat dialed in, especially if you need to, um, cure some of the ink colors so that you can put black and red and some of the stickier stuff on later on. Yeah. So I've thought about the same thing. I actually really like the Stampinator. Although since I've switched to the Anatol press, I've had better luck with my flash. So we still use a flash, but for that reason.
Yeah. So would you still flash and highlight white, or do you think you would stamp and highlight white?
Well, if I had my druthers, I would stamp and highlight white.
Would you do the same thing, Brandt?
I would stamp the underbase and before the highlight white, but if I had two of them, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you would have two of them and stamp, then do the highlight white.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't really use the cycle mode much on the Anatol because everything's going to hit the Stampinator, so you're going to hit Stampinator twice in a cycle mode. So I think that might have been why I thought that just having two of them would be easier, because if you are printing wet on wet, and let's say the flash wasn't really hitting, you're still sticking on a color. You spun it around again and hit the Stampinator, I feel like you have that problem less.
Yeah.
But
So,
That's nothing I ever thought of.
yeah. So honestly, we've gotten away from having highlight white blend. So we're truly just covering up where it needs true white on it. So we don't do highlight white to make a gray or light blue or any of that anymore. Yeah, we do that through half toning earlier on.
Huh.
So we just really, so we don't usually need that flash at the end for the, to cure anything or to tack cure anything. But so once you get comfortable with wet on wet, then you need that second Stampinator or second flash less often. But there's always humid days and there's always 8 color jobs or 10 color jobs where you got to just get some of that ink to not slide around. So black and red are terrible for picking up on the bottom
Red's
of screens.
notorious.
Yeah. So, if we have a lot of colors going down, we put black and red down, and then we occasionally we'll throw the flash in before we do our highlight white. Yeah. Otherwise, the highlight white just has that huge buildup underneath it. Yep. So,
cool.
Awesome.
So, other than that, so business is good since you got your auto. So, was there ever a time when you're going, okay, I'm going to go from 350 shirts a day to 350 shirts an hour? How do I do this? Right. So, how do I fill my press? Was that ever a question in your mind?
Not really. My approach has just been keep my head down and, just to work. Like I probably should forecast more and really think about that kind of stuff more. But, my goal of just keeping my head down and working. I haven't thought about my press payment once. Like none of that stuff has ever crept in, So I attribute that to just keeping your head down and working, networking helps a lot. I've got a couple of contract clients that it kind of fill in some jobs when you think you're slow, and then all of a sudden it kind of hits. I will say the odd thing though, I don't know if every screen printer is like this, but like, when your busy seasons are going to hit, but sometimes you're like, hey, I don't have anything booked for 2 weeks out, and then all of a sudden the next day, they just start flying in. So, it's
put that
quite
on the
interesting.
universe.
I think that's a small business thing more than a screen print thing. Because I can honestly tell you, like, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I'm literally sitting on a Wednesday and going, man, it is really slow this week. Like, is there something I don't know? Like, did screen printers take a week off? I'm like, what's going on? And I regret making that statement.
Nope.
Right. I can honestly say for the following 2 days, Both Rebecca and I were literally in the warehouse, and all we were doing is packing orders for 2 straight days. And I'm like, I have no idea what just happened. And I just think that's a small business universe thing.
Yeah,
So,
it
Brandt,
seems
do you
like
do any? Go ahead.
I was gonna say it seems like most of my clients recently are either like 6 months out or like 6 hours out. Like it's like, hey, how fast can I get this job? Or hey, I don't need this job for a long time. And I'm like, I need to find the balance in between of those two, you know?
Sure.
No, it's a weird year. I think that's the best way I can describe this year. It's not like any year I've seen in 15 years in regards to screen printing. Like, just in general, there's a lot of feast or famine, and there's a lot of steady work, but like it's typical customers that used to order, 300 shirts from you. Now we're only ordering 150. And now they're still steady. It's still there. It's just not as high of volumes as it was historically. Now I will say this month seems to have, the dial seems to have switched this about 2 weeks ago. It seems like everyone's foot is on the accelerator now, and we're back to kind of business as usual. But I will say the first half of this year was just weird.
Yeah.
That's the best way I think it's the best way I can put that.
So, Brandt, do you do any DTF on your press since you have a Stampinator?
Yeah, I have done some. I don't, because of I guess it's just the way the way it spins, and I haven't enjoyed doing DTF on the press. I usually just use our heat press for that. I feel like I have a better result from it. But we have done. I mean, I think we did one job that was 200 or 300 DTFs, on the Anatol, and it's fine. You just we have to tape down the transfers, just as the press spins around, so that it doesn't get caught up underneath one of the other, the screen arms or whatever.
Okay.
The only thing I would say to that is two things. Is if you're going to use it for transfers, there's actually a foam pad that you can get that goes on to the pallets, which helps. But the other is if you slow down the arm speed. So you can do that inside the head unit where you're slowing the arm speed down so it's not flying from one station to the next. Because if you don't do that, it has a tendency to pick up the transfer and it tends to want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think when I did that first job, I didn't realize foam pads were a thing, and maybe that's just my inexperience with the heat press world. But I think it would do fine with that. I think you still have to kind of tape down that right side as it spins. Even if you slowed it down, I think you would still want to kind of tape it down. But then again,
yeah, probably.
I run my Stampinator in head 2s, in position 2, so if I was doing a ton of them, I would probably just move it to head 1 so it's going directly underneath the Stampinator. Yeah.
No, that was a mistake. Right now is the perfect opportunity for me to put in a shameless plug.
Well, it's not.
No, I'm serious. They have
I'm surprised you didn't do one when he was talking about emulsion. I thought for sure he'd be like, "Oh, this podcast is brought to you by."
I teed you up and you didn't take it.
Hey, well, I try to be impartial, but I'm just saying the Stampinator pads for your press are actually on our website, where you can actually get the pads if you're going to do transfers on an Anatol, or any other press for that matter. But my point being is that I try to stay impartial. I try not to be a giant infomercial.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be partnered up with me on a podcast if this was just a giant infomercial.
Yeah, all evidence to the contrary.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I said, pardon me for the shameless plug. At least ask for excuse, ask permission.
All right. Awesome.
So, hey, speaking of the DTF subject, how much has that creeped into your business?
A little bit. We did. It's probably like once or twice a month I get a job where I'm like, all right, this is a DTF. We did this one job a client wanted a design. It was very 80s chrome looking. And I looked at it and I was like, I'm not even going to try to print that on my press. I was like, we can do DTF. And I was like, it'll look exactly like this image you just sent me. So we went that route. And then
Was
they
it
just
just too
ordered
many colors?
another job. Yeah, it was like the way it was blended and stuff. It was like, that classic chrome's got like a light blue, a gold. It had like a gold, a brown, purple, um, and then like a light blue, dark blue kind of thing.
Okay.
It was probably like I would imagine it would be 6 or 8 colors. On the 8.7, I'm printing maybe 5 colors at the most.
Okay.
So I wasn't really gonna try that one on it. He needed a kind of a quick turnaround too, so that's why I was like, I know this is gonna print like you want it if we do the transfer thing.
So are you doing your own art separations?
Yes, yeah. So, with my background being in graphic design, I do all the artwork and all that kind of stuff right now. But most of the stuff we do is, it's pretty much spot colors. Like it's not a lot of simulated process or anything. So, it's
Do
usually
you do your own simulated
pretty straightforward.
process separations?
Uh, I really haven't ever had to do one yet. Because if I'm designing it, I design things that are going to be
Sure.
conducive to the way I print.
Okay.
And with DTF coming out, like if I'm like, if I just think it would look better, be easier to get out the door, the quality of the DTF that I've done so far, I've been pretty happy with.
Nice. Okay.
So for those who haven't seen it, dude, you have some really cool posts on Instagram, especially the way you create artwork. So what program do you create that artwork in, and how are you filming it? Because it's really cool to watch.
Yeah. So the drawing app that I use on the iPad is called Procreate. And there's some other ones out there, but what they do is the app itself records every action that you do inside of the program, and then you can export a time lapse, either a full length time lapse or they'll condense it to 30 seconds. So anything that you see on Instagram of me drawing, it is just the app Procreate, and it records, that kind of time lapse thing. And then,
So then
depending
once you create, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah. So like, usually if it's illustrative heavy, I'm doing it in Procreate. So a lot of my own designs are, whether they're tattoo inspired art, or just illustrative stuff, I'll draw that in Procreate. And I may hand letter some stuff, but what I'll do is I'll take that inside Adobe Illustrator, and I usually do any of the typesetting inside of Adobe Illustrator. Sometimes I'll even, if the font that I'm using isn't hand drawn or rough enough looking, I'll lay it out like I want it to in a circle or whatever. I'll put it back in Procreate, and then I'll hand trace it or hand draw around it, maybe making some edits, and then put it back into Illustrator, for films and stuff.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing all that, though, I'm thinking about the screen printing process, and my files and everything are layered like I'm going to actually screen print it. So there's most likely an underbase file or underbase layer, and then the top colors are all separated out. So when I throw it in Illustrator and live trace it, it's kind of already separated for me.
Okay.
So you don't have to. So once you hand draw, you're not creating a vector file out of it. You're literally just dumping that into Illustrator when you're done.
Well, I will live trace, when I live trace it in Adobe Illustrator, it converts it to a vector, from a raster image to a vector image.
Oh, okay.
Unless it's some kind of, I know you can use rip softwares to get the halftones, but a lot of the brushes that I use in Procreate are have halftones and stuff, and it gives you that really gritty looking halftone. And a lot of them are a lot larger than you would print for like stem process and stuff. So it gives you that look and feel of the halftone without it being real fine, And then when you're doing stuff that's distressed and kind of rough like that, if you're out of registration a little bit or something, if the design's made a little messy, then it lends to a better print in my mind, or at least on a manual, because then you're not worried about it shifting or anything on you. It almost is like an overprint kind of look sometimes.
So now that you said that, question popped up because I ran into this yesterday. What were you able to do on a manual that you tried to do on an auto and it didn't work?
What can I do on a manual that I can't do on an auto? Well,
In
right
regards to
now,
printing.
anything. Yeah, right now I do. I printed about 200 baby onesies just because I don't have the pallets for the auto. So I printed those on a sleeve pallet. It's usually anything that's kind of tricky like that, a location that I'll still do manually. Um, but it's usually that odd thing that you're printing a location different, like a weird location, or um, I guess that's really the only thing I've used it for. I've printed some small runs of one color stuff. If it's a white T-shirt and there's 30 of them, a lot of times I'll just throw that on the manual and print those out pretty quick. But I honestly haven't. That's an interesting question because I haven't really ever come across anything like that yet. Just the
So
small
literally
stuff.
almost everybody I'm transitioning from a manual to an auto, they will do the separations and the artwork just like they had on the manual and put it on the auto. And 9 out of 10 times I will look at it and go, you can't print that way. And they're like, well, I print it that way on a manual. I'm like, well, you can probably get away with that on a manual, but you can't get away with that on an auto.
I've noticed. Well, I have noticed that I'm choking the underbase less than I was on the manual because the registration's so much better. And I mean, we've done several jobs that are butt registration that I would have never attempted on the manual. I would design things in a certain way where colors didn't touch, just so that I didn't have to mess with registration as much on the or on the manual. But the Riley Hopkins has got that joystick registration, and I loved it at first, but when I really started using it, I was like, I don't like this at all. Like, I would have gotten side clamps on a manual, and I haven't even. My plan was to move this manual into the other room near the dryer so that I could use it directly to the dryer. But you can see it's not even. I use it that little that I haven't even bothered moving it into the other room.
Oh, wow.
So I've thought about just selling it and buying a new one that matches the Anatol a little bit better, so I can use the same screens and stuff a little bit easier. But then again, I don't really know how often I'm going to use it.
Well, shameless plug. If you go out to Aaron's website, he has
I have ones that match that auto.
good stuff.
Thank you for that, by the way.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that.
I'm
How come
waiting
when
on
you
Aaron to
do it,
call
you
me and
don't
be
get
like,
heckled, but when I do it, I get heckled.
People just like me.
That's true. That is true. Dang it, people like you.
Thanks, Stuart.
I'm waiting on Aaron to call me and be like, hey, there's a screen printer that's got this Anatol manual press he doesn't want anymore. Do you want it? That's what I'm waiting on.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's the one thing I will say. What's one of the things that's been an interesting turn of events that I really didn't see happening, but as I see again down into the future of where screen printing goes, I didn't really see manual printing kind of dying. I didn't really see that happening. But DTF has really chewed into the need to manual print.
Yeah.
Because your lower volume stuff, instead of putting on a manual, now just DTF it.
Auto.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I get
there's
asked a
still
lot
a need
about.
for manual for the one color stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I just talked to somebody the other day who was asking me on advice, and I told them, I was like, go buy a heat press and order DTFs until you get started. They were wanting to do a clothing line, but I'm like, test out your designs, see what people like, and then have them screen printed. If you want them screen printed. If you're doing low quantities, just do the DTF. I've had that conversation probably half a dozen times in the past few months where I'm just like, buy you a heat press, do the DTF thing, because if you're like, I had thoughts early on about doing my own t-shirt lines. I think a lot of screen printers who get in there thinking they're going to do that, but it's, if you're not really into the craft of screen printing, you're going to waste a lot of money, and then you're going to get discouraged pretty quick. So DTF makes a lot of sense if you're trying to start a clothing line, because your idea, your design that you think is awesome might be, but it doesn't necessarily mean people are going to like it and buy it. So when I do pop-up shops, I've got t-shirts that I thought were the coolest thing and nobody buys it. And so then you got t-shirts where you're like, I don't know, I'll throw this one out there, and then people take to it. So it's a t-shirt. Selling t-shirts is a crazy kind of thing.
Once a month we get someone in that just wants to take someone else's design idea and change the font and pull it off as their own and call it a clothing line. And I'm like, that's not a clothing line. That's
just copying.
That's copycat. So, like, if I put "Just Do It" on a T-shirt in different font, that doesn't mean that that's my idea. Right. So, but we get that regularly. You know, somebody will come in and be like, I had this great idea for a shirt. And I was like, so did Adidas 20 years ago. So
I'm not trying to call your baby ugly, but
yeah, exactly.
No, and I think that's I think it's good for our industry, but it's also it's ultimately screen printing will be, I hate to say it, but it's going to be a lost art. And those who still do it within 3 to 5 years, I think, in my opinion, I think the margins will be higher because there won't be a lot of people doing it anymore. So if
especially the high color.
No, especially the high, yeah. Being able to do like a 80s t-shirt in 5 years, no one's going to be able to do it. Except for those screen printers who still can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And everyone will be selling the DTF version of it. But if you want that rustic, true plastisol feel.
Kind of like what you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
Did you print that?
I did print that.
That's shameless plug. That's nice.
Shameless plug. Yeah.
There you go. We did a job one time where we DTF'd
this is the episode of shameless plugs, so let's just keep doing it.
We had a job one time, we DTF'd the front and we screen printed something on the back, or vice versa, I can't remember. And I was really surprised how close they are if you post press the DTF correctly or a certain way. Like I was surprised. I was like, I can tell the difference, but I was like, most people probably won't be able to tell the difference.
If I've got to close my eyes and I'm feeling it and going,
yeah,
no one's going to know.
You'll know because you feel 10,000 shirts a month, right? But the person that feels their shirt for the first time ever, they just care that it looks great. Most of them.
Yeah, they're going to go, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is exactly what I wanted it to look like. Thanks. So,
and I think everybody who's ever done a pocket print would say that exact same thing. If you got a 1-color back or a 2-color back and a pocket print, if you're still pocket printing, think otherwise. Like with DTF, it just makes pocket printing so easy. I mean, so easy.
So,
but yeah, I would agree.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks, Brian. I know you've got a skedaddle. You've got a gig.
Yeah, man.
So, what kind of music you play?
We do 90s rock, man. 90s rock cover
bands. All right, a little Pearl Jam.
We've got a little bit of Pearl Jam, man. Some of those, we want to do a lot of Soundgarden stuff, but nobody can sing it, because Chris Cornell was so high. But we do some Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins,
too, isn't it?
Yeah,
nice.
I'm sure. Yeah.
No one can really sing like Sebastian Bach did back in the 80s.
Very true. So where are you playing tonight?
We are playing at the Painted Pickle in Atlanta. So
nice.
It's a
Shameless plug for the
pickleball
Painted
court.
Pickle.
That's it.
Right. Hopefully they'll give me
So
an
if you're in
extra tip
Atlanta and
tonight.
you like pickleball and you want to listen to some 90s music, you got to head down to the Painted Pickle.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, thanks again, Brandt. We appreciate you coming on. Good luck tonight at the Painted Pickle.
Do you have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once? I am one of those melodramatic fools.